Thanks everyone for coming. We're going to start the presentation now. I'm going to pass it off to our representatives from the town, Katie, to give us our introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Happy to do so. Welcome everyone. This is our first public information session that we have with the town of Bradford. I am Katie Madaresi, Manager of Capital Projects. Today you have with me Marcio Marcus. He is the project manager for this project, as well as our director, Peter Lukes. We have our consultant with us, WSP, and Jay will introduce his own team just in a moment. I'd like to emphasize that this is your moment. Please share your thoughts with us. You will hear a lot. You will see some openings, some questions, some opportunities to have a discussion. Jay will walk you through the process. Jay and his team are going to walk you through the process. With that, I will pass the discussions to Jay.
Thank you, Katie. I'd like to first just introduce some of the members from the WSP team. If you don't have your camera on, please turn it on for a second and give yourself a bit of an introduction. We have Christine Vaz, our Deputy Project Manager.
Hello, everybody.
We have Jeremiah Parag, our Consultation Lead.
Hi, everyone.
Olivia Falcone, our Environmental Assessment and Planning Specialist.
Hello, everyone.
Dave McLaughlin, our Active Transportation Lead.
Hello.
And Jennifer Sisson, our Landscape Architecture and Streetscape Lead.
Good evening, all.
We also have Justin Jones, who is also assisting with our consultation.
Good evening.
I'm going to pass it off to the town project manager, Marcio, to give a bit more of an introduction.
Hi, as Katie mentioned, my name is Marcio Marks. I'm the project manager in the Capital Projects Department, and I welcome everyone in attendance today. I know I can't see you all, you can see me, but really this project has been in the mix for a while now, and we're very excited to kick it off again. And we want everyone's participation. We want residents and owners and businesses alike, their participation to gather the best ideas that we can to make a very informed decision on how to bring the Holland Street EA project forward. We do have a very aggressive schedule. We are looking to go to council in June of this year with the recommendation. And so following this PIC, we'll have another in April. So we do ask that if you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you do not bring up in the meeting today, or that you might have later on, we do encourage you to reach out. Our project website will be continuously updated with the latest reporting, latest news, and latest meetings that we're going to be having. So again, I encourage you to voice your concerns, voice your opinions. Let us know what you'd like to see along Holland Street. What are some of the things that you might have seen somewhere else and really want to see on Holland Street in Bradford? Thanks.
Thank you, Marcio. I'm going to pass it off to Jeremiah to provide an overview of our PIC etiquette for this online event, as well as our Indigenous land acknowledgement and agenda for today.
Thanks, Jay. Before we continue, I would like to share a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the Wendat and Haudenosaunee nations have also walked on this territory over time. In times of great change, we recognize more than ever the importance of honoring Indigenous history and culture, and we are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation respect, and good health with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. As representatives of the people of the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, we are grateful to have an opportunity to work and live in this territory. Go on to the next slide. And here you'll see the agenda for today's meeting. We'll be starting with the study purpose and study area. Then we'll discuss ongoing studies that impact this study. That will be followed by the municipal class EA process and study timeline. Following that, we'll discuss problems and opportunities. Then we have policies and best practices review. That will be followed with existing land use and configuration along Holland Street. And then we'll move into opportunities and ideas to consider. And finally, we'll discuss next steps and how to provide comments. We've allocated quite a bit of time for Q&A during today's session, so we should be able to get to all of the questions, but if we do run long, we'll be able to answer any questions via email or via the project website. We understand as well that the presentation software that we're using today might be new to some attendees, so I want to provide a quick overview of how it works. During the Q&A, if you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat box, as I see some folks are still already doing. If you'd like to join this meeting and listen in via phone or ask a question verbally during the presentation, you'll have the ability to do so. You should see a number at the top of your screen. The number is 1-855-925-2801, and you can enter code 4984 after you get onto that page. Following that, feel free to follow the instructions. You can leave a voicemail with the team if you'd like to leave your comments like that, or if you'd like to raise your hand to join the queue to ask a question verbally, you can press *3. You can additionally take part in our live survey via text message, where we'll be sharing details on shortly. Because we only have an hour for today's presentation, we're going to be addressing all questions during the Q&A period towards the end of the presentation, but feel free to ask any questions using the chat function throughout the meeting. Please note as well that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website following the meeting. We can go on to the next slide. Before we continue, we wanted to start with a brief question to help us understand who's in attendance today and to get everyone a bit more familiar with the platform. So if you scroll down just a little bit on the page where the video is displayed, you should see a button that says Step 1. Feel free to click that button and you should see a question that comes up that says, tell us about yourself. Please check off the box that best represents you. We have a couple of options there that you can feel free to choose from. We have resident, business owner, developer, town staff, federal or provincial ministry staff, and other. If you click the other box, you'll be able to type in any response you like. And you can also participate using the text numbers seen at the top of your screen. So we'll just give everyone a few moments to answer that. Okay, perfect. And now I'll invite Jay to begin his presentation.
Thanks, Jeremiah, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for participating in this public information center for the Holland Street EA. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your nights. I know we're all very busy, so we really do appreciate your attending. It's very important for us and for you to provide your input. Your input will inform a lot of our designs moving forward and the alternatives that we're going to be looking at. So now I'll get into the main subject of tonight, with starting with the study purpose and also looking at the study area for the municipal class environmental assessment study. Next slide, please. The purpose of this study is really to transform Holland Street to align with the town's strategic plan, which includes promoting employment growth, improving community and traffic safety, reducing congestion, and upgrading the existing facilities. This study will be a key component in revitalizing the town's downtown core and transforming it into an inviting, walkable, people-friendly shopping district that will serve as a destination location for residents and visitors to enjoy. The study purpose provides the reason why this study is being carried out. However, it's really the vision of the Holland Street corridor, which will be discussed in a few slides, that provides the direction for the study. And that's what we're really looking to get your input on tonight. Next slide, please. The study area is central to along Holland Street. It's extending from Professors Day Drive and Melbourne Drive in the west to the intersection of Deset Street and Marshu Boulevard in the east. It also includes some sections of roads crossing Holland Street, including the central crossing roads of Berry Street up to John Street and Simcoe Road down to Thomas Street. There are a few other studies which will have an effect on the town, as well as our environmental assessment study, which I'll review over the next few slides. The town-wide transportation master plan study will develop a guide for sustainable, efficient, and safe movement of goods and people within and around the town. The Holland Street environmental assessment study is being carried out concurrently with the town's transportation master plan. The TMP will inform the Holland Street environmental assessment study by recommending the traffic and active transportation along the Holland Street corridor. The Transportation Master Plan and this municipal class environmental assessment study represent a fully integrated approach to the transportation planning and revitalization of Holland Street. For more information on the Transportation Master Plan, you can visit the town's website at the link below. The Bradford Bypass, which is another study you may have heard, is another key project that will affect the future traffic on Holland Street. Currently, Holland Street is the only connection for highways 400 and 404 north of Newmarket. The Bradford Bypass, which has been announced by the province, represents an opportunity to shift the regional through traffic off of Holland Street and to more fully utilize Holland Street as an inviting and vibrant downtown core, which can be enjoyed by the community. The projected changes to the traffic volumes that will result from the Bradford Bypass will be completed as part of the Transportation Master Plan. And as we noted on the previous slide, the Transportation Master Plan will inform this environmental assessment study and provide transportation recommendations for the Holland Street corridor. The town is also undergoing an official plan review. An official plan provides a vision for future growth and generally guides where new homes, schools, businesses, and parks should be located. It includes policies with respect to the construction of new services, such as roads and sewers, as well as protecting our natural and built heritage. The official plan update was adopted by Council in March 2021. It is now with the County of Simcoe, the approval authority for amendments and updates to the town's official plan. The official plan prescribes and directs growth townwide, including within and adjacent to the Holland Street environmental assessment study, which will undergo intensification. Simcoe County is also currently undergoing a municipal comprehensive review to revise the regional official plan. The regional official plan will plan the growth for the county based on the recently released 2022 census data. Following the adoption of the Simcoe County Regional Official Plan, the town will revise its official plan to be consistent with the regions. The future growth and intensifications outlined in the official plan update are included in the Transportation Master Plan analysis, which again affects the transportation recommendations for Holland Street. The official plan also provides the vision for the corridor, which will guide the character of the Holland Street. I'm now going to pass it over to my colleague Christine to present on the next few slides.
Thanks, Jay.
So we'll be talking now about the municipal class environmental assessment process and the study timelines. The Class CA process provides a consistent, streamlined, easily understood process for planning and implementing infrastructure projects, including road, water, wastewater, and transit projects. This project is following the municipal class environmental assessment process and is being completed as a Schedule C project. And as a Schedule C project, the following 4 phases are required to be completed. These phases are Phase 1, problems and opportunities. This is where our project currently is, and we'll be speaking to the problems and opportunities shortly in the next slides. Study commencement took place in January, and our first public information center for the project is today. And Phase 2 is looking at alternative planning solutions. As Phase 1 ends, we are entering this phase where we'll be looking at alternative planning solutions to the project that address the problem and opportunities. And in Phase 3, we'll be developing and evaluating alternative designs. The Public Information Center number 2 falls in this phase in April, and we'll be presenting the design alternatives and preliminary recommended alternative. In Phase 4 includes preparing the environmental study report, and a notice of study completion will be sent out to the contact list in June, and there'll be a 30-day public review of this environmental study report. Now we'll be discussing the problems and opportunities of the project. So this slide here outlines the problems with Holland Street and where the opportunities lie to align the corridor with its vision. The planned Bradford Bypass creates an opportunity to shift regional traffic off Holland Street, and as noted previously, to more fully utilize the downtown core for the town's benefit. Holland Street corridor acts as a gateway to the urban center and downtown core, and it needs to be updated with the town's vision of reducing congestion, promoting employment growth, improving community and traffic safety, and upgrading existing facilities. The Holland Street Environmental Assessment Study can provide a redesign of the Holland Street corridor as part of the downtown's revitalization into an inviting, walkable, people-friendly destination. And ultimately, as Jay noted previously, it's the vision for Holland Street that is driving the direction of the study. Some key items the project team sees as being important in the Holland Street corridor and are included in this vision are being a people-friendly shopping destination, being an area reflective of the small town heritage and charm, including a hub for art and music and cultural events, including landscaping plus places to rest and relax, including public art to reflect the area's farming, settler, and Indigenous histories, including flexible use spaces suitable for use as summer patios, and including ways to minimize and mitigate the construction impact on businesses and residents. So we're seeking your input throughout this presentation to hear what your vision of the Holland Street corridor is and take your feedback to help determine a preferred design for the corridor. These next slides will note the policies and best practices we're reviewing in this project. So we'll be working with the existing policy framework at the provincial, county, and local level, such as following the provincial policy statement, places to grow, county TMP updates, local official plan, and downtown Bradford revitalization strategy, just to name a few of these policies. And here are some examples of best practices and design guidelines that our project team members will be referencing and following, such as the Bikeway Traffic Control Guidelines, Geometric Design Guide for Canada Roads, and the Ontario Traffic Manual, to name a few. And the next few slides will speak to the existing land use of the corridor and the current configurations of Holland Street. So the map here outlines the existing land uses in the project area. The dashed blue line outlines the project's study area, and the light pink area is designated as downtown Bradford, which is throughout our study area. The study area is also surrounded by residential buildup shown in light yellow. We can also see that Holland Street is considered an arterial major street, and that our study area does cover off some arterial minor streets at a few intersections at Professors in Melbourne, Simcoe Road and Berry Street, and Marshview Boulevard. There are a few collector streets that intersect with Holland Street as well, which are Miller Park Avenue and Collings Avenue. These collector streets distribute traffic between the local and arterial roads. There are also bus routes and stops along Holland Street and its intersections, as well as proposed trails connecting at the east and west ends. This map presents the planned growth in the downtown core of Bradford West Gwillimbury. And as you can see, any new development will require buildings to be a minimum of 2 to 4 stories and have a maximum of 4 to 10 stories. The Holland Street EA study will consider this growth as part of the study, and with the revitalization of Holland Street comes density, which creates opportunities to encourage more multimodal travel in the community. The context of the roadway changes as one traverses the roadway on Holland Street from west to east. The western section of the project is more characteristic of an arterial boulevard, whereas the section east of Holland Court presents the typical characteristics of a downtown area. This is the view of the existing conditions on Holland Street, east of Collins Avenue. This area would be considered more of an arterial boulevard. There is currently a sidewalk on both sides of the street with lighting and 4 driving lanes ranging in width. This area of Holland Street east of Berry Street would be considered more the typical downtown area when it comes to the cross section. The cross section changes slightly here and includes a slightly wider sidewalk and larger lighting space with parking lanes on either side of the road and 2 driving lanes. The slide here focuses on the current available parking along Holland Street. And as you can see, there are many opportunities at commercial parking lots along the whole corridor in blue, and some on-street parking along a few intersecting streets that are shown in yellow. Then the on-street parking in pink, as previously shown in the cross-section, has a time limit in the more downtown characteristic area of Holland Street. There are also 5 designated public parking areas surrounding the downtown characteristic area that are shown in red in this map. Here are some images showing examples of the existing commercial and public parking and on-street parking along and adjacent to Holland Street.
Perfect. And we have another question coming up right now. So before we continue, if you just scroll down a little bit on the page that has the video on it, you'll see 2 questions under step 2. So feel free to take a second and click on step 2. The first question you'll see there is, what do you like about Holland Street? And the second question is, what are some of the issues with Holland Street? For each of those questions, you can select all of the options that apply, and you also have the option to click on the other box and type in any customized responses as well. You can also participate using text with the information that's at the top of the video page. We'll just give everyone a minute or so to answer these questions. Okay, perfect. Christine, you can continue whenever you're ready.
Okay, so we're going to pass the presentation off now to Olivia to continue on opportunities and ideas.
Thank you, Christine. So this next section will look at the opportunities for Holland Street and explore the ideas and design approaches that can apply to this corridor. So the project team is convening this public information center to obtain feedback from the public. Specifically, in the next sections, we want to present on the following opportunities and design considerations and ideas. We want to get your feedback on what is important to you and how you envision the future of Holland Street. A complete street design is being considered throughout the corridor. With reduced traffic from the announced Bradford Bypass, a complete street will help enhance the corridor as an inviting, vibrant, and comfortable destination. Complete street designs are meant for all ages. This type of design promotes activity, livability, and connectivity for all modes of travel. We recognize that each community and each corridor is unique from other ones. As such, the complete street design approach for Holland Street will include considerations to the projected traffic volumes projected by the Transportation Masterplan study, the projected needs of the corridor based on future land uses, the existing adjacent and surrounding neighborhoods, the desires of the community and stakeholders, and the existing downtown character and the width of the road. Next are the opportunities and ideas to consider. Active transportation, such as cycling and pedestrian space, parking, urban design, landscaping, streetscaping, and amenity spaces, smart solutions, such as parking and curbside management, or smart traffic lighting solutions, the number of travel lanes, and accessibility. We will go into some of these in more detail later in the presentation. Before we move on to the next section to explore the different design components of a road, we want you to think about the following design considerations. This image was taken in the downtown just west of Simcoe Street. As you can see, this stretch of Holland Street is the narrowest, with a right-of-way width of 20 meters. There will be no opportunity to widen the road in this area. Currently, there are sidewalks on both sides of the street, with restricted parking on the north side during the evenings and mornings. And I will pass it up to Jen.
Oh, thanks, Olivia. So with those design considerations in mind, we can take a bit of a deeper dive into the different components and zones that make up a street. Within a typical complete street, there are various zones from one side of the street to the other, as shown in this image. Starting from the center of the road, we typically find the travel lane zone here for vehicles. Adjacent to the travel lane is often a street parking zone. Together, the travel lane and the parking zone form the roadway, or the area dedicated to cars. Moving away from the center of the street is a cycling zone. When the cycling zone is located on the roadway, it's often delineated from the vehicular zone as a painted, buffered bike lane. Sometimes, when the road is wide enough, the cycling facilities may be elevated and separated from traffic for increased safety and better enjoyment of the street by both drivers and cyclists. As we move towards the edge of the street, we find the pedestrian zone, where you'll typically have sidewalks, and an amenity zone, which may contain a multitude of things, including patios, plantings, art, and furnishings. As we looked at in the design consideration slides, it's important to remember that we have a constrained width along Holland Street. All of these zones won't fit, and we want to understand what zones are most important to you. Let's look a little deeper into the vehicular zone, or the travel lane zone. So these are some typical examples of travel lanes in the parking zone. It's worth keeping in mind that a typical travel lane is about 3.5 meters wide, and parking usually occupies about 2.5 meters. To put that into perspective for Holland Street, where segments are only 20 meters wide, with 2 travel lanes in each direction, 70% of the available space in the public right-of-way is going to be used up. If you add parking on both sides, another 25% of the roadway would be used. This only leaves 5%, or 1 meter, of space for any other type of zone. This obviously is not an ideal scenario. It wouldn't leave enough space for a single sidewalk. As such, redistributing roadway features to the cycling zone, the amenity zone, or pedestrian zone will be considered in this study. Let's explore the pedestrian and cycling zones further. Cycling facilities can be located either on road as cycling lanes next to the travel lanes or parking, or be elevated and separated from the road and adjacent to pedestrian and amenity areas. When located on street, the cycling lanes often include a painted or physical buffer for cyclist safety. Each on-street cycling lane with buffer typically occupies 2.5 meters. The pedestrian zones or sidewalks will vary from a minimum of 1.5 meters to 3 or more meters wide, depending on the volume of foot traffic anticipated. This means that together, the cycling lanes and narrow sidewalks on both sides of the corridor would take up 40% of the street width, leaving space for 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, and an additional 1.5 meters of amenity zone space on both sides in the narrowest sections of Holland Street. The amenity zones are flexible spaces that help create character, beautify the street, and provide enjoyment to those who visit and travel through the corridor. These spaces contribute to a vibrant public realm and invite us to stay and enjoy the space. Amenity zones are the most flexible spaces, both in terms of the area they take up and what they can hold. They range anywhere from 1 to 5 meters wide or more. As shown in this slide, amenities in these zones may include patios and movable seating from nearby restaurants, or they may have decorative street trees, grasses, perennials, or even bioswales to assist in controlling the quantity and quality of stormwater runoff. The larger the amenity zone, the more possibility there is to incorporate a multitude of different elements. Sorry, I'm getting a notice that I'm a little bit garbled, so I'm going to stop my video. So these amenity spaces can be flexible and seasonal. For example, flexible patio spaces, as shown in the previous slide, can temporarily take over parking spaces in the summer and then be removed for winter. Given the length of the corridor where space permits, multiple amenity types can be implemented in these zones. For example, a section may have patio space, while further down the corridor, the zone may be used for another amenity, such as plantings or street furniture. On the next slide, you'll see there are some typical examples of furnishings within the amenity zone. This may include seating, bike racks, and waste receptacles. Other types of furnishing within these zones may also include utility features, such as street lighting. Shown here are examples of illumination within the amenity zone. Pedestrians get lighting helps to foster a more intimate pedestrian environment, while also helping to create a safer corridor at night. There are also opportunities within amenity zones to incorporate gateway features and public art. Gateway features welcome travelers with a distinct entrance, introducing the community and contributing to a sense of place. These may be located within an amenity zone or could even arch over the roadway, as seen in the example on the bottom left. Another amenity is public art, which can be either permanent or temporary installations within the amenity zone. These pieces can celebrate the community, including Indigenous history and culture, and may also showcase the current works of local artists. Together, gateway features and public art can often be a source of pride for a community by recognizing and celebrating local culture and heritage, and providing the possibility to incorporate Indigenous artwork. With that, I'll hand it off to Marcio with next steps.
Perfect. And before we continue, we just have 2 more questions. So if you scroll down on the page just below the video, you'll see a button that says Step 3. If you click Step 3, 2 questions should come up. The first one is to please rank the following streetscape zones in order of preference. And the second question is to please rank the following amenity zones in order of preference as well. Olivia, can you show people how to just move the... Yeah, perfect. So you can just click and drag any of the options there, and you can drag your top priority all the way to the top, and you should be able to order them as you wish. And I'll just give everyone about a minute or so to answer these questions. See some responses coming in. I'll just give it another few seconds. Perfect. And we can move on to the next slide. And I'll pass it over to Jay to continue.
Thanks, Jeremiah. We're just about to wrap up our portion of this of the presentation, and we'll shortly get into the question and answer section. Just wanted to review some of the next steps that the project team is going to be moving forward with following this PIC. And we'll also have Marcio from the town direct you into the next steps. Next slide, please. So in addition to some of the design elements that we've discussed within this presentation, the environmental assessment will also review other technical elements that we just wanted to note. We will be reviewing the cultural heritage assessment along Holland Street, the municipal services, the natural environment and any impacts, illumination and smart technologies, which we touched on, traffic and parking, as well as noise and air quality. I'm going to pass it off to Marcio to close out our portion of the presentation.
Thanks, Jay. So what we're planning to do here is we want to summarize the process and all the information that we receive from people who fill out the survey. We're going to be commencing on February the 17th until March 4th, a period where you'll be able to fill out a survey and submit that survey to the town. As part of that survey, the town is offering a $100 gift card and 3 $50 gift cards to a restaurant of your choice within the town of Bradford. And we want to make sure that you know, we receive as much input as possible to help us with this study and help form what Holland Street will eventually become. So we do encourage you to sign up and fill out that survey. It'll be available on our website probably tomorrow or later this evening. So please do that, fill it out and get that back to us. So what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months is we're going to be carrying the background studies. As Jay had mentioned, there's a lot of studies that will be done in the background that will help support this EA and help us come up with a 30% detailed design. And what we'll be doing is we'll be coming up with various design alternatives. And those design alternatives will be presented at our next steps at our following PIC. Those alternatives will basically be everyone's input put together and part of the studies that we're conducting as well into a design that best suits Holland Street. And so in preparation for that meeting, that PIC in April, we do encourage you to contact myself. You can visit the website, my contact details are there, but do provide your input, what you'd like to see. If you have any questions or comments throughout the next few months, please do not hesitate to call me or send me an email or text. The way this project is going to move forward as swiftly as it can is with your input. So again, we do encourage you, please provide your input. Please let us know what you'd like to see.
Perfect. And now we'll move on to the Q&A. For those who recently joined the meeting, I'll just recap the instructions on how to participate. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat box on the right side of your screen. If you would like to ask a question verbally, feel free to call the number on your screen there. It's 1-855-925-2801. If you want to ask a question verbally, you can enter the code 4984. Once you do that, you'll have an option to join the queue to ask a question. You can do that by pressing *3, or you can press 0 to leave a voicemail with a project team that we will add to the comments for this meeting. For those who would like to participate in the text survey, feel free to use the texting option shown on the screen here. And on the slide here, you'll see that we have 4 prompt questions. The questions are: which roadway features do you consider the most important? What don't you like about Holland Street today? What do you like about Holland Street today? And how do you imagine Holland Street in the future? Keep in mind, these are just some prompt questions to get everyone thinking a little bit. So feel free to ask anything related to the prompts here or any questions at all that are related to the study. A friendly reminder as well that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website following the meeting. And with that, I will open up the floor for questions. I see we do have a few in the chat box already. We have some questions related particularly to the designation of the road as a truck route and some concerns that this project moving forward without the completion of eighth line and the eighth line designation as a truck route might be a bit of an issue. Marcio, could you comment on that at all?
Yeah, so one of the major factors here is that the Transportation Master Plan, which is another project that we're working on under the A process, will identify the needs and requirements for various roads around town that will require upgrades or even possibly new roads. And so that project is really leading what will happen to Holland Street, what could happen to Line 8, Line 6, and all of our major roads throughout the town. So one of the things we are looking at, and if you've been in town and been following town projects for a while now, you will know that we do have a Line 8 environmental assessment in process. We're just waiting on finalization of our transportation master plan to determine what type of roadway is best suited for Line 8. So we are taking Line 8 into consideration and all the other roads, and that'll be brought forth in
Oh, sorry, I think you're muted, Marcio. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're working on that transportation master plan, which will be a leading factor for the remainder of the roads in town, which does include Line 8. So we will be looking at that, and we'll have more details. You could visit the Town of Bradford website at townofbwg.com/TMP, and there you'll find more information about our transportation master plan. As we update the webpage with reports and findings, it'll become more clear as to what could potentially happen with the remainder of the roads in town.
Perfect, thank you. I see some comments in the chat as well from some people who recently joined the meeting, just asking if they are free to join for the 7:30 session. By all means, feel free to join at 7:30. It'll be on the exact same webpage that you're on right now, so just feel free to refresh the page a little later on and you should be able to join the meeting then. We have another question. The question is, I would like to see cycling lanes that are separated from traffic lanes, having a divider between the driving lanes and cycling lanes, but not in a way that is too intrusive in order to help with parking in the core. We have Dave McLaughlin here who can speak to some of the active transportation considerations. Dave, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks. So it's a really good question. And as we look at different alternatives and cross sections for Holland Street, we're going to look at, the priorities that residents are identifying for the corridor. A number of people have talked about improving the pedestrian realm and accommodating cycling infrastructure, but not if we are providing cycling infrastructure, the preference being that it be separated from motor vehicle traffic. And as you heard earlier in the presentation, there are ways of doing that through different types of separation. And it really depends on what we do and how we repurpose the space that we have in that roadway. If we narrow the road for motor vehicle traffic a little bit, or relieve or reduce parking on one side, for example, that will create more space in the boulevard and will increase the chances of us accommodating a bike facility in the boulevard separated from motor vehicle traffic. So the team will be looking at a number of different alternatives as we proceed, and we thank you for your comment.
Perfect, thanks, Dave. We have another question here that asks if it's possible to use art as bollards in order to protect pedestrians. Jen, could we go to you on that?
Definitely. Thank you for the question. That is a great one. While we will be looking at a whole bunch of different opportunities through this study, something like having art on the bollards would come down to a detailed design decision. So we can propose that as something that we would definitely look at if bollards are required for the design. And it might be implemented in a further stage.
Perfect, thank you.
Also, Jeremiah, just if I may, just to add, if people have examples of things that they've seen in Ontario or around the world that they think could apply to the corridor, feel free to also send us an email about that. We're always interested in seeing ideas of other communities have happened if you have something particular in mind. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We have a comment in the chat just noting how urgent this study is and the want from residents to get it completed. So we will note that in the comment record for sure. So thank you very much. We have a question on if EV stations are going to be considered as part of this environmental assessment. Jay, do you want to address that to start?
EV, sorry, you said the
Electric vehicle
vehicle
charging
stations.
Yes.
Yeah, so part of the design components we noted was smart technologies, which would fit under this consideration. So we will be looking at all kinds of different smart technologies that could be accommodated within the corridor. And if that's, becomes a preference for the town, if we receive a lot of comments, we'll be taking that into consideration throughout the study. But there's definitely a lot of interest in those new technologies and incorporating them into new infrastructures. So that it's always a very interesting area of study. Thanks.
Just to provide further comment on that, if you've been in the downtown over the last few years, you'll know that the town has reconstructed 3 parking lots downtown. That's 31 Berry Street, John and Moore Street parking lot, and the parking lot behind the funeral home. And those 3 parking lots, EV stations and charging stations have been considered in the past for those. So it is something that we will be looking into as part of this study, not only along the corridor, but in our parking lots as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Marcia. We have a question as well. Will the study area include parking lots that are behind the local businesses? This would help with the beautification of the whole downtown area. Perhaps we can start with Marcio on that and then go to Jay after.
Sorry, do you mind repeating that? My internet was cutting out.
Yeah, no worries. Will the study area include parking lots that are behind local businesses in order to help with the beautification of the whole downtown area?
So the study area along Holland Street, it focuses mostly on town-owned infrastructure. And in saying that, the town does have a few parking lots that they own. There's another piece of property, if you're familiar, where the old Royal Bank was, and that does belong to the town as well. So we'll be looking at ensuring that we offset or try to keep as many parking spots as we can downtown, but we won't really be focusing on private property parking.
Perfect. Jay, anything to add on your end?
No, I think Marcio addressed that. Yeah, the focus of this study is mainly along the Holland Street corridor. But again, if people do have comments about other aspects of the downtown, please feel free to provide those comments, and Marcio will direct them and take them into consideration.
All right. Thanks, Jay. We have a comment as well. I don't think the Bradford Bypass will have the impact on local traffic that many think it will. A lot of resident commuters will utilize the bypass and the traffic will be funneled down into Berry Street and the downtown core. I'm not sure if that's being taken into consideration. Marcio, could you address that?
Right. So like I mentioned before, we are running the transportation master plan concurrently with this project, and that will really give us an idea of 2 different types of analysis. So the transportation master plan is going to look at what happens to the roads in Bradford if the bypass comes online, and what happens to the roads in Bradford if the bypass doesn't come online. So we'll be taking those 2 studies, those 2 models into consideration when we determine what Holland Street will eventually become. So we do understand that based on our knowledge anyways, that if you do build the bypass, it will redirect some of the traffic. It's just, we're working on the model at the moment, and that should give us a clearer picture of what might actually happen.
We have a comment as well that streetlights, cabling, and traffic signals are past their useful life. Jay, can you touch on how this project might address some of that?
Yeah, street lighting and street lighting and pedestrian lighting will be reviewed. So we will go through the process of assessing the existing conditions along the corridor, providing recommendations for upgrading those facilities. And then we'll also need to consider how that plays into the other design elements that we talked about, where the illumination will be located, the types of different illumination that will best suit the corridor, and if we're adding active transportation or widening the pedestrian space, then those will need to be considered. So that's definitely going to be part of our considerations when we look at the illumination along Holland Street.
Perfect. We have a comment as well that businesses of different ethnicities should be considered for the downtown core. So we appreciate that comment. We'll definitely take that back. We have another comment that's part of the traffic congestion heading west is the left turn onto Barrie/Simcoe Street. Will a proper left turn be part of this environmental assessment? As of now, the easterly traffic gets a flashing left. Once there is a solid green, there is no opportunity to make the left heading onto Simcoe. Marcio, could we start with you on that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, the transportation master plan will be a guiding factor on what happens to Holland Street and its configuration in lanes. But as part of the project too, we are looking at every single intersection along Holland Street within our study corridor, which is Professor Day Drive, Melbourne, all the way down to Marshview and Doucette. And as part of that process, we will be looking at upgrading the signalization. And as mentioned in the presentation, we're looking at smart systems. And what that really means is ensuring that all these signals can coordinate with each other, they can talk to each other so that they know if there's congestion, and they can work kind of together to move traffic along. So really we won't know until the transportation master plan gets to a point where we have a solid model to determine what the configuration of the lanes are going to be, and ultimately what the turn lanes are going to be. Once we determine what those turn lanes are, it'll help us come up with proper signal timing plans to determine how to best move traffic at each intersection along the corridor. So that will come at a later date, and you might hear more of those recommendations during the second Public Information Center meeting.
Thanks, Marcia. We have a comment as well that crosswalks are necessary to make it safer and easier for pedestrians in the downtown core. So we'll note that and take that back as well. And we have time for one more question. And the question is, are there any areas of the downtown core that can be used for open/green spaces/flexible spaces that are currently being considered? Marcia, we can go to you first on this, and then we can go to Jay.
So we will be looking, the town will be looking at the various off streets, let's call it. Moore and Drury are two very good examples of what we consider off streets. We'll be looking at flexible space along Holland Street, that main corridor, the pinch point really between Holland Court and I would say about Nelson or Bingham. So we are looking into that, and that will be considered as part of this study.
Perfect. And that's actually all the questions we had. So the timing works out there because we are out of time for the Q&A session. So for everyone still here, we understand that you might still have some comments that come to mind. If you scroll down on the page you're currently on and click on step 4 in the menu below the screen, if we could show that on the screen, Olivia, as well, you'll see 3 questions there. One for any comments that you might have, another for contact information, and another for the mapping tool. On the mapping tool specifically, there's a button in the top right corner that says Add Point. Feel free to click that button and you'll be able to add a point onto anywhere on the interactive map within the study area and share your thoughts on it, whether it's positive or negative, and that'll be shared with the project team immediately. There's no limit to the number of pins that you can place, so feel free to share as much information as possible. And I just want to note as well that if you do have any questions that you add into the any further information box, if you would like a response to that, please enter your name and email as well so we know how to get back to you. And just to note that these questions will remain on the page after the meeting is complete today. So feel free to take your time on this, and just remember to click submit whenever you've completed the survey. And the survey questions are going to be available on the website until March 4th. So if you didn't have a chance to complete the questions today, or if you want to do some more thinking before you commit to any answers, feel free to return to the website anytime before March 4th to share your responses And as a reminder as well, you can also call the project phone line at 1-855-925-2801 and dial 4984 to leave any verbal comments as well on our voicemail system. And lastly, a recording of this presentation will be posted online in the coming days on the project website. With that, I'll just invite Marcio to close off the meeting.
So I do want to thank everyone for attending tonight. Typically, we do these Public Information Center meetings in person. So it's been real different and a little bit challenging to do it online. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, I can't see you, but I know that you can see me. So I do encourage you to reach out. If you do have any questions, I'm all ears, and I'd love to hear what you think about Holland Street, what you'd like to see along Holland Street, and just some of your general concerns. Whether you're a resident or business owner, we need to hear it. We need to hear it because it'll help us develop a very beautiful downtown that I think the residents and business owners deserve. So again, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with everybody.
Perfect. Have a great rest of the evening, everyone.